But I realized that it doesn't really make sense until your company is making, I would say maybe like 20 million in a year. It doesn't make sense to work with the department store unless you're doing some sort of strategic partnership, and I'll get back to that in a second.
All in audio experience.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's the All In Audio Experience. It's Jordan here. I got my guy Trent over in Orlando. Where you at, my boy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here. We got a special guest for y'all today. We got Marcel in the building of Benson Watch. This man has over 900 investors. He was named top watch brands by New York Times. A designer and an owner. So this is a beautiful time, a beautiful thing to have you on here, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
I
We
guess,
appreciate
man,
you coming on.
we can go ahead and let's dive in, man. So let's just get the background of where you're from. Where are you from, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm originally from Prince George's County, Maryland. So I'm
Okay.
not sure, like I'm not sure the demographics of your viewership, but PG County is like probably about 10 minutes outside of just to kind of give some some context. So like a suburb outside.
Okay, okay. So so beyond that, so growing up there and then how did you end up into, like, I guess, the watch business? Where did the first interest come, you know?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like you know, I come from PG, like not necessarily the greatest parts, right? I didn't grow up like rich. I didn't grow up, um, with a family that went to college and stuff like that. So my parents they were more focused on like me getting into college, and like that to them that was breaking generational curses, right? Like being the first to go to college, graduate, stuff like that. And I kind of bought into that. I spent a good part of my childhood doing the wrong thing, but I was able to get my act together in time. I would say probably like around 11th grade, where I started to like just really, really focus and start to think about my future because I had seen so many of the people that I had grown up with just like going completely in the wrong direction. So I decided I was going to go to college. I was going to get a good job, and I was going to be that that person in the family that graduated and had a great job, right? So then I did.
Mhm.
I went down to Morehouse, graduated with a business degree, started working in consulting, and then I realized in working in that in that job that I had done everything that I was supposed to do, but somehow I wasn't feeling good, right? Like I'm not excited to wake up in the morning to go to work. I don't get along with the people at the job. Like I'm not passionate about the work that I'm doing, right? It was literally just like a high level way to just get a check, right? It's no different
Mhm.
working, at a fast food joint just because like I was literally going just for the money. So I decided one day that I didn't want to live like that no more. So I started to just kind of think about different things that I was passionate about like throughout my life. And when I really started thinking about it, it was watches, right? Like I got my first piece when I was 7 years old. It was a little square Kenneth Cole watch with a silver link, and I wore that watch just pretty much everywhere. And then that kind of like initiated this passion for it. I started collecting watches, so got my first piece at 7, collected up until I was about 25, and I probably collected about 100 different watches, right? So
Mm.
when I think back to that experience and just like over my life, I'm like, well, that's the one thing that not only was I doing for free, but I was paying to do it. So I'm like, how cool would it be if I could, jump out on my, on my faith, right? Like what I'm passionate about and use that as a metaphor to inspire the masses to do the same thing. So that's how I came up with the concept that time should be spent doing what you love. So literally, as I'm climbing the ladder and continuing to grow Benson is simultaneously inspiring people who have passions outside of what they're currently doing to go and pursue those themselves. So I feel like my story, you know, my results and all that is just it's just going to serve as a massive example of what happens when you decide to, you know, to pursue your passion.
No, that's dope.
Mhm.
That's super dope. So for the people that I like my accessories, but Trent's more like the watch connoisseur to me. So for the folks that's not like hip yet, what are like the different styles of like watches? If we could like break it down, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's so many, man. There's so many, right? And there's different levels and tiers. So just on a very foundational level, there's you know, there's your fashion watches, which is mainly what we make, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the fashion watch when it doesn't have like a mechanical movement, right? Like an intricate mechanical movement
Okay.
priced like under $1,000. A lot of times it's considered like a fashion watch. Um, so a big part of like what I'm doing is I'm designing pieces that have the high end aesthetic, but you know the
Okay.
price point is comfortable, so it falls in that fashion price point because I'm making it for us. A lot of us are not there yet. We will be, and I'm also working on a high
Okay.
line for those people. But I wanted to start off with something that was accessible because I know when I started collecting watches, like all the pieces that I was most attracted to, like I couldn't afford. So I was like, I want to put.
Yeah. All the ones the rappers got.
Was that?
All the ones the rappers
Yeah,
got. I'm
exactly.
looking like,
Why?
when I'm gonna get one of those?
So I was like, I want to kind of bring that same like element to a more affordable piece, you know, for now. So there's the fashion watches, then there's the luxury watches, and then there's tiers within the luxury watches. So there's like the lower tier of luxury, which is like Bon Mercier, Longines. These are you know, Movado might fit in there. These are all pieces that are priced
Okay.
like 1,500 to 3,500. Um,
Okay.
Cartier has some pieces in there before you bust it down. Then you got the, you know, mid tier, which is like Rolex. You know, this is stuff that starts about, you know, $5,000, goes up to like 20,000. And then you have
Okay.
the upper tier, which is, you know, 25,000 and better. This is your Audemars Piguet's, your Richard Millie's, your Frank Mueller's, you know,
Okay.
RBMFs, you know what I mean? Like these super high end pieces, you know, that can go anywhere up to, you know, a million plus, Patek Philippe, right?
Yeah.
So those are the different like tiers, you know, of watches in terms of like styles. I mean, it's infinite.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Infinite.
like I said, there's a quartz, which is a battery operated, and then there's the mechanical, which has a million different types of movements. But the mechanical movement is essentially autonomous. It works on it. It doesn't need to be connected to a battery or charge or anything. Like it will work forever as long as there's some sort of movement, you know, hand motion or something.
Mm.
Um,
That's crazy.
yeah. So then, like I said, inside of that, you got things like your field watches. You got dive watches, which are, you know, like super watches with high atomic meter depth or whatever. You can go like deep sea diving with the watch, and you know, it won't be impacted. You have dress watches. You got airplane, you know, watches. You have moon phases. Like this piece right here is a moon phase. So this one tracks the 29.5 phases of the moon. Um,
Okay.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, we could be on here all
Got you.
naming them, but
I got you. No, that's good right there.
Wow, yeah. I mean, so since starting at 7 and then having this business, how did you, I mean, to get into this business, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? How do you even make those connections? Was it something you just built over time because you were a collector, so you just kind of knew people, or how did that work for you?
yeah, I didn't know anybody, man. Like I literally, like I said, I started the company because I knew I wanted to do something different. I knew that like the corporate route wasn't for me. Um, I just wanted to create something that allowed me to just completely be myself. And it's been a journey to getting back to that place. I mean, you went to Morehouse, right? Like a lot of us, we're taught to like talk, walk, dress a certain way, and kind of fit into a like a certain mold. But it takes a level of courage to kind of just like like veer off and do your own thing. And I wanted to create something that like would allow me to completely abandon any of the corporate stuff. So that means like I would be able to like not have to shave my face. I could grow my hair. I could do whatever, right? So once I knew that I wanted to do that. So with that in mind, I just decided like whatever it takes, I'm going to do. So like I said, I didn't have any contacts in the industry. I just started going to like different blogs and stuff like that. This is back when blogs were big, and I'm like just on under blogs. I'm in all the comments, just trying to figure out who I'm in the people. And I was fortunate enough to meet this guy, brilliant guy, and he actually, I'm not sure if he's even still if his company is still open or not, but he used to own this company called the Orange Watch Company, and he basically just spoon fed me his connect. Like he gave me the manufacturer to that made his watches, and was just like, yo, go use him. And the crazy part is, I originally didn't use it because I was like, there's no way that it's this easy. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mm.
how silly.
Yeah.
Like I was like, there's no way that I can get to the manufacturer like that can do my pieces for this price this easy. Like him just telling me go here. I'm like, got to be something wrong. You know what I mean? So I decided to go with another manufacturer, and then I actually wind up getting burned for 20,000 by that manufacturer, and then I wound up going back to the one that he originally gave me in the first place. So
That's wild.
what I'm making is that it can be very easy. Like it may not, like finding the manufacturer, getting into the industry. It's not that hard. It's really just a matter of like, um, obviously you have to have the capital to get your initial inventory. The most difficult part, I would say, in the industry is being able to just manage inventory because of the time frame that it takes to get them created. So when you're talking about cash flow in your business, when you have something that takes about 3 months to make, and you got to spend, a decent amount to get that inventory in because you don't want to have any sort of lapses in your financial year. That can be like the difficult part, and just kind of like understanding like what you need, especially if sales begin to lag at a period and the cash flow is not as high. Um, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It's really just like having a manufacturer. You can make those without contacts. You don't have to be some special person with special connections. Like we live in a time where like you literally can just Google pretty much anything you want to know, and just spend time, like following up with these leads.
Yeah, we learned ourselves. Started doing business about 3 years ago. That cash flows is a big thing in
It's,
business.
it's,
Is
that's what we cash flow and profit. Oftentimes we talk about, a lot of people talk about revenue, right? Like, revenue
yeah,
cool, but you know, it's just the top line. Like you got so many
yeah,
line items and expenses and things to get you to that.
facts.
A lot of businesses end the year without seeing any profit. And it's
Yeah,
it's not so terrible, within a certain time frame. But we all know the goal is to make money. So
facts.
yeah,
And
cash flow.
getting the money you actually need it. That's why it's like you understand why like people put interest rates and stuff out there, and like why like the time value of money is important. Like you
Like
need money at immediately. Facts.
now it's always
Uh,
always better than later, when it comes
facts.
unless
Um,
unless you have a high enough interest rate. Like if it's a super high interest rate, then maybe not. But I mean, like you said, the reason they're charging those rates is because right now is the most important. So if they got to get it,
yeah.
they got to make you pay.
So going into the design aspect of like what you do, like, can you just give us some insight into like what that part of the journey was like, becoming like a watch designer,
Mhm.
maybe some of the things you enjoy about it, some of the things that's hard about it.
Yeah. So for me, like I never studied art or nothing like that. Like I was never like I never drew. You know, growing up, I just started sketching and pretty much figuring out my way, watching videos and just doing what I needed to do to just piece it together. Um, but my biggest philosophy when it comes to design is just making it simple. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the best you think about all the brands that you really like and that have kind of stood the test of time. Like they all have mastered an element of simplicity. You know what I mean? Like I mean, even with the streetwear, you look at Supreme, like it's very simple. You look at if you want to go into a different, like brand or genre of clothing, like like Ralph Lauren, very simple. Like um, shit in the watch industry, Rolex, right? You look at Movado, you look at Patek, like very simple, straightforward. It's more about like the materials, the quality, but the simplicity of it is what allows it to like last over time. That's what makes it like a classic, right?
Yeah.
So what I do when I start designing, like it may initially have like a bunch of different features. Like I might have a chronograph over here. I may have like numbers and all this extra stuff like on the watch. But then I ask myself like, how much of this can I take away and like it still be clean? Like what pieces can be like stripped away and the watch still look good? And I just kind of start playing around like that. So I like dump everything on the page and then just start taking stuff away. So that's my.
Okay.
So with this also, so you do hand sketching. Um, do you use software at all? Is that something that is needed or something that you want to get into to design or not really?
Absolutely. So I am not skilled or trained in the software. So beyond the sketch, like it goes to my renderer. So I have a guy in Europe that does all of my renderings, like all of the mock-ups of the pieces, like when it's actually like in full color and texture. That's done by him. I haven't figured it out, and I've worked with a lot of people, and it's just like it's a specific person that can create those renderings like the right way. It's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So I stay away from that aspect. I'm not skilled in that side of the business.
No, I feel that
Yeah,
like 3D rendering is it's a craft in its own.
yeah, for sure.
Um, Going to your Cardinal collection,
Mhm.
that's like the feature collection on your site right now. Can you just break that down for the view or the audience?
Mhm. Yeah, so the Cardinal, was named just because it was like, most important or first, right? So that was the thought behind. That was our original watch. The original colors were like brown, purple, green, and I believe we did a pink for the original colors. And that's just like our flagship signature watch, straightforward. And it's been working for us for years.
Okay, okay. Um, so now, so this is a question. I don't know if you're like, do you have a brick and mortar or are you just, um, just digital with this, with your store? Is it even worth going into brick and mortar? Is also another question that I would like to ask. So,
Now, that's actually a good question. That's a really good question. I get from brands that are like thinking about going into department stores because I was actually the first black-owned watch company in Macy's, right? So you'll notice there's a few other black watch companies that are getting out, and it's salute to them. But from my experience, it's not a great idea. So that's the reason that I actually pulled out. So I was in, I was in. They have a store called MGM Men's that was in all their MGM casinos. We were in there. We were in Guild Group, and I found out that it just on the surface it was great, right? Like I'm during if you asked me during that time, like you couldn't tell me nothing. I was excited. That was like circa what 2019. This is like 2018, 2019 before the pandemic. Like I was very excited But I realized that it doesn't really make sense until your company is making, I would say maybe like 20 million in a year. It doesn't make sense to work with the department store unless you're doing some sort of strategic partnership, and I'll get back to that in a second. So with Macy's, you get in the store, they may say, hey, we're gonna throw you in 100 stores. But what they put in each of their contracts is something called a buyback clause, and and that means if we don't sell these in a certain period of time, you got to buy it back from us. So we might have wrote you a check for $500,000, but if you only sell a quarter of that, you gotta run that 300 back. You know,
Mm.
like every you gotta get back. So um, we just decided it doesn't make sense. We tried doing on the online thing, like working with Macy's online, and that was cool. We were fulfilling our own orders. The orders were coming through the Macy's website, but then we realized, like, man, like they're not actually spending money targeting people, saying, "Hey, come buy this Benson watch." We're spending the money on Facebook ads and Instagram ads to send people to Macy's to sign up at Macy's and
Mm.
to collect all the data. So,
Mm.
so in a sense, it's like they know they have a big name, but it's also, we also in 2020 2023, like it's, and I realized this early. I'm like, hey, these department stores are closing hundreds of stores a year, or less, like a little less, but they're closing a lot of stores a year. So that means that they're not growing. The industry is not growing. So there's no way that
Mm.
your infant business is going to grow as a result of being in the store. And then on top of that, like I said, they're playing you. They're getting your information. Like I said, they were using the idea that they wanted to support, like black owned companies and do all these. So they use all the language to make it alluring. But when you think about it, it's like, oh, hold on. I'm paying for your marketing and I'm giving you my customers. That don't make sense.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
What?
sense.
Off of what we
Not at
go
all.
back and say, oh yeah, I'm in Macy's. And you just sit on the internet like I'm in Macy's. And people be like, oh, congrats. So great. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. It does help with your credibility. But as a business owner, we got to think about bottom line. We got to think about like building that that data. We got to that email list, that text list. We need all the
Yeah.
information, and we want to own it completely. So that's when I made the decision to say I cut ties with all the companies that I was working with, and decided to just go in house, completely digital, and being completely in control of the product and the brand. So if I ever want to do something with a company, it would be some sort of partnership. Like if I want to launch like a collaborative, so I'm working on a couple collaborations right now. So I'm working on a collaboration with JB Smooth, and I'm working on a collaboration with another designer friend of mine. I want to mention the brand yet because they're kind of going through some you know uh, legal shifts to the name or whatever. So I don't want to put that out there. But we're working on collaboration. So we may go to like a Nordstrom or a Neiman and say like, hey, we want to collab and do this like pop up shop here. Exclusively
Mhm.
here we split the proceeds, the profits, for this like 2 day event or maybe this 1 week pop up shop. You know what I mean? But just something that's
Mm-hmm.
very exclusive and temporary, that's mutually beneficial, but not something that's gonna feel like we're being completely taken advantage of. So and when you really just think about it, right? Like when you think about a business that works, you have to think about, damn, when is the last time I walked in Macy's and watch? When the last time you walked in
Never.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No.
Never.
for the watch?
I only go to like department stores with my folks nowadays. Like I don't shop in department stores like that no
Well,
more.
I mean, like sometimes we go get a last minute outfit from Bloomingdale's or something like that, or Macy's, whatever, right? But when's the last time you really was like, yo, I'm about to go shopping at Macy's?
Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
Not for real.
It's been a long time.
No offense.
It's been a minute.
It's just like you got to think like that when you're thinking about okay, how am I gonna get this to the customer? How am I gonna get the customer to purchase? Like, what's realistic? What are people actually doing? And the fact is, they're not going there. They're not. So like I said, while there are brands that are sitting here and they're excited about being, in Macy's, the fact remains is like it's not going to grow your company. So as a startup, like I'm looking at avenues that's going to help us grow, and that's going to benefit us overall. Not something that's going to take the company that has the bigger name to the next level, give them some sort of credibility. So
Okay.
yeah, those
So, how, where do you see the watch like landscape going as far as like the customer experience? Like, where do you see yourself like positioning like your company as to providing the best experience over like the next 5 to 10 years? When like say I'm a customer
Mhm.
and I come to get a watch from you, like how do you envision like that experience being for me?
Great question. So we do eventually. I think that the in person experience is something that cannot be it can't be matched, right? Like, so yeah, we sell online. There's all this digital stuff. There's AI that's taking over in a lot of cases. The metaverse, like, and we also are going to have an experience, a metaverse experience as well. We are,
Okay.
building out a store that allows, that will allow people to experience it in that way. So it'll simulate in person. But we do want to have a flagship, store within the next couple of years that allows people to just kind of, to come in and get the full experience of what the brand represents, right? So that's inspiration. That's connecting with other, like-minded individuals. That's being taken care of when you come into the spot, being greeted, with great energy. You know, having conversations in this kind of like club, like environment that you would not necessarily just be able to have on the internet or on your own, right? So just a very intimate and curated space that kind of creates an atmosphere for for like-minded individuals to kind of come together and just like build. That's how I envision it. It won't be the traditional like cigar and whiskey. Like we're not a pretentious watch company. We're more like I like to look at us as like a watch company that's connected to its customers. Like, so we have a pretty strong pulse on like what the people that that purchase Benson are into, like what their priorities are, like what they like to do, and it's not super traditional.